we are going to try to build this tab animation concept on React Native. So it's going to be a quite long and a little long, not that long, but it's going to be an interactive section of learning, because while we learn this, we have to talk and explain so that we can really understand how we can achieve this. And we are going to be working with so many dependencies in order for us to build this. So if you are new to React Native animation, I also have some cool animation videos on my channel. You can as well check those out. But for this one, is quite different. So we are going to start working on it and to see whether we can realize exactly what we see on our screen. So you can notice that whenever each tab is clicked, the icon goes to the top, it translates to the top, while the text come a little bit, having a little bit bouncing effect, I guess. So, and also at the back, it has a weave effect that just splashes a white color, and then it disappears before the icons zoom up and also the text comes up. So right now, that's what we are going to try to build. So let's get started. I already have my Expo project initialized. So if you're new to React Native, I suggest you watch on my channel. You are going to see Expo React Native crash course. As well, I'm going to as well add React Native crash course in case you want to work with React Native. Anyone is your choice, but they are going to give you the same result. So right here in my home.ts, I also uploaded a video of how you can create a custom SVG, because you are going to be working with icons. All these images, all these things you see here like images are SVG icons. That is why you can style the parts and also retain the fill, not to be filled with the color, but rather take the color of the background and still be on itself. So we are still going to do that, but we are not going to do it much because I already did that. So if you are interested on learning that, you can as well check out my channel. You can see how you can use your own custom SVG icon. So this is a custom SVG icon I gathered for myself that we are going to be making use of, and that's almost exactly what you see on that images. So the first one there, I think, is shopping list. I think I have shop here. This one, then I brought some other random icons to make sure that we have up to good 5 icons that we are going to be working with. So right now, let's get started. As usual, the first thing I'm going to do is to import our icons. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to import, let me check the name. I'm going to import shop, I think from go back, I think it's 3 folder backwards, then we can go over to the source icons, then we can go over to the shop. You can copy this down because I don't want to waste much time. You can bring in the book, I can bring in the user, I can bring in the search, and one more icon, because we are working with 5 icons, the coffee. So I just have to rename everything the way the names are. We have the user, we have the search, and lastly we have the coffee. So that's it for our icons. And mind you, whenever we hit on save, Expo comes with already built-in hot reload that is not going to really allow us to restart the app again and again. No, we just have to save and then we can go on. So these icons we have imported, we have to create an array in order to make use of it, because if you check on the image, we have the icons, then we have the text. So for us to do that is very simple as well. That means I'm going to create an array of tabs. So it's going to have an icon. The first one is the shop, which is going to have a text of shop. Let me just put comma here, copy that down. Then the second one is book. I can change this to book. The third one is user. The fourth one is the search. And the last one, which is the coffee. I'm not a good fan of coffee. Sometimes I don't like taking it except for latte. So we have coffee. we have the search, and we have user. So back here in our return method, we have to clear everything here. We have to make use of the safe area. It's called the safe area. I think the safe area view from React Native. Let me quickly create a style because I don't want us to have the problem of the style sheet. And create a style, and the style sheet is going to come from React Native. So we also have the safe area, I guess. Yeah, the safe area view. Okay, let's just delete that one. So inside here, I'm going to create a placeholder of container, which is going to take up the whole width and height. We have the background color to change it to, let me use 1D336E. That's something like a bluish color. Then I can justify the content as well to the center. Then inside the safe area view, all I just have to do is to take off the style. Then I can spread the styles, then select the container. Then inside here, we are going to have a view. Now this view is also going to accept a style. Let me just stop talking. Just go ahead and do it fast. For this one is going to be where we are going to have our tabs, because if you check on this image, you can see our tabs here. So let me just add a CSS. So for the tabs, we're going to have a flex direction of row. We have to align the items as well to the center. And lastly, let's just give it a background color. So the background color we find there, this background color, I'm just going to give it H22E8DB. Or we can even use cyan. Maybe let me just use cyan. Cyan is kind of similar to that color. Then right here, I can just put tabs and save. So you can see why we can see this background color taking effect is because it's taking up the flex one, which is the total width and total height. So for the tabs itself, we are going to quickly show that, but mind you, it is just the placeholder for the wrapper for the icons, not placeholder. So we are going to loop the icons. The icons is going on the horizontal, I think the horizontal axis, which is going to be a flex of row. Okay, we've already done that. So it's going to be tabs.map. So we can get the I think we have the icon and the text. So we can use the structuring and pull out the icon and the text. Then we can get the key. So which is going to return a JSX. We can now wrap it in a view. So let me just kind of put a text here and see whether we are going to have something. Oh, text must be okay. I must wrap this in a text. So forgive me for this Vim. Sometimes I'm too fast on it. I'll just be doing the wrong thing. So let's format that and see. So right now you can see our icons are on the center, which I don't really want. I want this on flex end. So I want it at the bottom. So you can see the text of our icons are actually showing, but we don't want it that way. So for this one, let me just give it a key. I can just give it a key direct like this. Then I'm going to create a style. But inside here, let me just I'll create a component called tab. So the tab should be able to accept all these things. It's going to accept the icon, and it's going to accept some couple of props. So the first one is you can pass the key, we can pass the text, We don't need the icon in the tab because the icon is this already. So the key and the text is only the thing I need. So right here, I'm going to add a style of styles.tab. So for the tab itself, we are going to give the icons a width and a height because we don't want it joined together. So there are some already predefined constants I defined here. So you can always have these because it's going to be on the GitHub. So is a way of getting the icons to properly fit the container that it is occupying without excessive border or excessive height or excessive width. So, but we are still going to make use of this. So for the tab, I want the width to be segments. I want the height. The height is going to be the icon size plus the padding. Then we can multiply it by 2. Give it a flex direction of column. That is for the individual icons because we are not whether it's column or row, but the main thing is to make sure that it is on the center, and also the item have to be on the center. So if we say we are going to have an error, so I'm going to quickly create a component called tab.tsx. So inside the tab here, we have to import some things again. I'm going to import from React Native. I think, oh, let me just use this one for now. You can just import this. Or we can even use, let me use from React Native reanimated, import from React Native reanimated. So I can bring in the view. Now I can bring in the animated. Then from the animated, I'm going to get the view. I can get the view from the animated because I don't want this to disturb me later on when we are handling animation. We can have an error if we don't actually make this to use the animated view. So inside here, we have to grab, the first thing I have to grab is the children, I guess. So I'm going to get the children. So I'm going to create interface tab props, which is going to take the children. So the children itself is React elements. We also have to get the key. The key happens to be the number. We also have to get the text, which is the string. So right here, you can just change this to tab props. So let's save, and let's come back here. We have style here, which is showing me an error. Okay, we have not yet imported this component, so just import component here. I have to import tab from the same folder. Can just close that properly and auto format that. So I saved, and we are having an error that came and disappeared. I don't know why. Let me check something, guys. What if I did this way? I don't know why. We have styles.tab, I guess. Okay, that has disappeared. The red squiggly line there was actually discouraging me, so I think disappearing made it better. So for the icon, we have to now come over here and spread the icon. So I can just spread the children here. Our app is now actually refreshing the way we want it. Let's close it and open that again. So my machine is not happy. I have to run that on Android emulator. We do not have an error, but I don't know why we are faced with this slow loading. So let's just give that a couple of seconds. So right now that is done, and you can see our app ran effectively, and every icon did fit into this portion of the screen, and that's exactly what we can see here. You can see all the icon perfectly taking the space it should take, and also the fitting it should take. So right now over in the tab itself, we have to give this icon a size. If you can see, this icon is too large. So the way we can do that is we are going to make use of the icon size. I can just type, with the help of Visual Studio Code, I can just get that. So I can just type down icon size, and it's going to import it automatically for me. And I can save that. And I can also bring in the height, same icon size. So you can see the icon is perfectly there, but let me just go over here. Not bad. With okay, the icon numbers. This is kind of cool because it all the sizes according to the icon numbers. So even if we add one more icon, I think it's still going to take a perfect shape. So let me just try that and change the text to something else. Oh, I think it should give us something we can see. So I never tried that before, but this is the first time I'm trying to add like six icons together. But let me just see how it's going to be. They don't work, but well, that's not a problem. Let's just go ahead. Maybe I can figure it out, and I will still, in one of my videos, I'm still going to show you how we can do it. So right now we have made sure that we can see our icon, and everything there seems to be working properly. So the next thing now is, if you observe in this image, we have the icon and we have another icon, but you can't really notice that. That's because whenever you click on this, it's going to go up while the other one gets disappear. That means that we need to clone each of these icons. So we can quickly do that on the tab components. So the way we can do it is, for this child, we can just bring another view and put that, and I want this to float and also fill. You can just say Stylesheet dot absolute fill object. Let me just bring in Stylesheet from React Native. Stylesheet. So I can say here Stylesheet dot absolute fill. Okay, let me just use this, and let me save that, which is actually good. So let's go ahead and clone our icon. So it's going to accept a position of absolute because it's going to float over the already existing icon that we can see here. That is the icon with the children. So I created a little class that I'm just going to use for this one because I don't want the icon to overflow whenever it is centered on this container. So I'm just going to spread that. Lastly, I can give it a width, and the width can just be the same width and height. And lastly, I can just let's just go ahead and save this. We are not going to see anything because
we have not yet cloned the icon, so we can use the clone element from React. So we get the clone element from React. So right here, you can use the clone element. The clone element is going to accept the element you want to clone, which is the children, and you can as well pass as many props you want to pass to it. So if I save this, it's going to clone that, but you're not going to notice it because there is no props I pass to it. Now let's go over here, to the icon. So each of those icons have a props of active, which is going to either fill a color if we have an active color, an active prop is going to fill the color, or is going to just leave it as none, which is going to make use of the stroke. Which is true. So when I save this, you can see it definitely just fit into the already existing icon, and you can see all the icons here are cloned and the active classes was applied to it. I mean, the active attribute was given to it, or the active prop, whichever way you want to pronounce it. If you're coming from web, you will see sometimes you have to interchangeably pronounce all these things, not that it is supposed to be like that. So, but as time goes on, I'm going to improve. So we are done cloning the elements. Now the next thing we have to do is we need to get the active elements that we click, or the active tab that we click whenever we click on them. So because of that active element or active click, I'm going to wrap this with touchable without feedback, and I'm going to define an onPress on my interface. An onPress here is just going to be a function that will return void, and I can bring the onPress here. So the onPress is going to be active when we click on press here. So in our home component, let me just close this icon. In our home component, let me change, or anyhow, let me just leave it. But right here we can let me check something, guys. Okay, over here in our tab, we can pass the onPress, which is going to return a callback and a function. And this is where we are going to set the active tab that we currently clicked on. So take for example, I'm going to just alert the text of the tab that we clicked on. So if I happen to click on the first one, you can see the text. Okay, I should remove this, not just a text. So let that refresh. You can see shop, book, user, search, and coffee. So you can see all these things are working perfectly. So for us to make use of that, we have to define an animation node that is going to help us to show the current active tab that we are currently on. So I'm going to, at the top here, I'm going to define an animation node called active. So active, which is going to be a new value. So I have not brought in that. So I'm going to do what I did on the other one. I'm going to import animated from React Native reanimated. And I'm going to get the view from animated. So right here as well, we can get the value from animated as well. So right here, I can just bring in the value. So the value is just going to be 0. So when we click on this, I want to set that value to the current index or the current key that we are using right here. So I'm just going to set the active dot set value to the key. So that's going to be giving us some type error. I'm just going to come here and put any here, I guess. I should solve that. Now we have to listen for the increasing a number or the interpolation of the number in the active. So the way we can do that is to create a transition effect. So I'm going to create a transition. I think I spelled that correctly. Now the transition is going to take the with transition. And I think that is from React Native redash. Did I not install it? Import from React Native redash. So I'm going to bring in the with transition. So right here, we can just put the with transition. So the with transition is going to observe any change in the active value. And we can just set the duration to the duration that we define on our constant. So the duration is 100 milliseconds, which is not really a big deal. So if you're familiar with Spring transition, it's just a similarity, but this kind of simplify things further. So right here, I'm going to now set the active transition. Do I really need this active transition? No, I don't need this for now. But what I can do is to pass down the transition over here in our tab. So I passed it down, and inside our tab, the transition is going to be an animated node with a number value. So we can say transition is an animated node with a number value. So right here, we can just make a reference to that. So we can now do anything we want to do with this transition value, which is kind of very cool. And as well, I think transition. Let me kind of check something, guys. We also need the active transition. So I need to pass the active transition as well. Yes. Which is going to be the animated node, the number. So right here, we can just get the active, and right here, I can pass down the active transition. So this active transition, if you can recall, contains the number of the index that we are actually on. So if we are on the first index, it's going to set the key, which is the index value, and it's going to set it from 0 to that correct index. So back in our tab, all I just have to do here is, first of all, I have to check if we are actually, we have to check whether the active transition is equals to the current index, which is the current key. So I have to bring the key here. So I have to use, let me just give it, if it is active, we check for the node value and as well the number value. So we can say if the active is equal to the index. So we don't have that brought in, so I'm just going to quickly fix that and import it immediately. So that will fix it for us. So this index is the key. Then we can now interpolate with, we can now create an animation animation value or animation node with the active transition. So we can just set active transition, which is going to take with transition as well. If you recall the way we did it last time, you pass the node values, then you can just set a duration of the duration. Let me kind of reduce it a little bit or increase it a little bit. So this is better, and this is good, I guess. Okay, this is far more better. So we can just save that. You can see we do not have any error, but it's telling us that we have a key problem. That is because the key, we didn't use the key. So the problem says that the key prop is undefined, which I don't really know of, but let me kind of console.log the key. So let's check in our console. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we pass down the key prop. Let's kind of console.log that over here. We have undefined, which means it's not working properly. Or let's change this to index rather. So we can just put index here, put index, set the value as well to the index. Then we can come over to here, rename this to the index. Then right here, I can rename this to the index. So let's check that again. Right now it's working perfectly. The key was the problem we had initially. So what I need to do now is, since we have our active transition and we have used that to create a transition node, what we just have to do is to hide all these icons except for the one that we are currently on, or except for the index that we are currently on. So whenever our app opens, it's going to set the first index to whatever it has to be, which is 0. Then when you click on these indexes, it's going to set the value to the active index. Then we can use that to create an animation node. Then we can use the animation node to either hide or show values, or show our icons. So we have to interpolate with active transitions. Transition, not transitions. So the first one is we can. So I want the current icon that we are currently at to translate to the top, and let the other icon stay where it has to stay, that is on the middle. So I'm just going to create a translate y constant, and it's going to interpolate, and interpolate is coming from React Native reanimated. It's going to interpolate with the active transition. So the input range is going to go from 0 to the number, but in between that number we have 1, 2, 3. Like over here we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in between that we still have something like 1. So 1 is actually good because because it's going to pass between those numbers. So we can say as it's going from 0 to 1, 0 to 1, we want the output range to go from 0 to -12. That is translate upward to -12. Sorry guys, I can just put IY here because I don't want the, maybe later we can use translate Y directly, but down here I can now remove okay, I didn't add it initially. I can add the transform attributes, and then we can translate Y to be translate IY. So let's save that and see. And right now you can see only the one that we are currently active at is going to translate to the top. When I click on this, same thing. When I click on this, same thing. When I click on this one, same thing. And when I click on this one, same thing. So you can see our transition or our translation is actually working perfectly, and the interpolate values are working perfectly as well. So if you can observe, the way the width is kind of disgusting. So we want this to actually take the whole width. So what I can do is, or maybe we can create our own width. I can actually create my own width at the top. So I can just say width is interpolate with the active transition. It's going from an input range. When you come across 0 and 1, you should have an output range of from 0. We can multiply the icon size by 2. We want it to be a little bit bigger than the previous icon, and we can just add that in the container of the clone element. So we can just change this to width. So let's save that. It's kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same thing, but is it because we have overflow hidden? No. Let me kind of check something, guys. So I was not able to figure out what the problem was, but at least we have something that is working, and we can just allow it for now. Maybe later we can find a way to work around this and make sure that the icon does not overlap, or we can do it another way. So let's go ahead. At the top here, I want to hide the main icon. So I'm going to create an animation node with an interpolate of this. The input range, as usual, goes from 0 to 1. I want to hide it. So I want it to go from 1 to 0. But okay, let's just come down and place it where it ought to be. So it has to be on this main icon itself, which is going to have an opacity of hide. So when that refreshes, you can see the main icon behind it is going to get hidden, while the active one is going to get showed. So maybe this is a time for me to just maybe reduce this to my -1. I think it's better, or maybe -2 or 3, so that we don't get the icon to disappear. But here you can notice a little bit of transition and also a little bit of translation from top to bottom whenever we click and whenever we leave. So, but for this hiding interpolate value that we created here, I want it to hide faster. So I want even from 0.1, 0.5, that it should already be hidden by then. So you can just possibly hide that fast, so that we don't get to even notice that there was an icon at the back. So right now everything seemed to work properly. So let's check the image again. So this seemed like to be bouncing. So to add the bouncing effect, we are going to add it when we are done. But for now, let's just go ahead. So the next thing I'm going to do is, let me kind of check something. We have to make sure right now that we can show the text. We are going to create a component called the text wrapper. So right here, I'm going to create a component called text wrapper. Which is going to be a simple functional component. Let me just make it this way and change this and bring this down. Text wrapper. Save that. Can now bring it into the home component. So at the top here, I'm going to import text wrapper. I'm just going to come over here, import text wrapper from text wrapper. So let's go down here. Under that tab, we can now add a text wrapper components, which is going to accept some couple of props. It's going to accept the active transition. It's going to accept the text that we get from our map. It's going to accept the active as well, the active transition node value. Then the active transition we are going to create right now. So this active transition is what we are going to be making use of whenever we want to interpolate with our text, which is going to be very simple. Active transition, which is going to have a new value of, for now let me just give it any. So it's going to use the use code hook. Now the use code hook accepts a callback of an array, but it's going to accept only when the values of let's just use active for now. Now inside this array callback, we are going to accept a block that accepts a block, which is a function that is going to accept an array of unchanged value of active. Then we have to set the active transition to 0, and also we can set, it's already in 0. Okay, it's good to reset it in case we have an already transition in the animated node of that. Then we can set the active transition. Let's just add a timing from redash. We can add a duration of duration. This is just like when you are using with Spring or with timing transition or with Spring transition. It all depends on your choice, but this way is as well good. So you can just use it and do whatever you want to do. So I'm just going to add all missing imports. And also this timing itself comes from redash, I guess. So I think React Native redash, the timing. Why are we having an error? Let me kind of clear this again. Timing, which is going to accept a duration of duration. So let me save that and see. Okay, we have this div to be the problem. Can return null for now. Now let's make sure that every other thing is working perfectly. It says it's not a number. So do make sure you import the timing from React Native redash. Don't use the one from React Native reanimated. So make sure it comes from React Native redash. So let's save that again, and we do not have an error. So we already passed the active transition. So in our test wrapper right now, it's going to accept, let me create some interface for that. Test wrapper props is going to accept active transition, which is an animated node, which is a number, which is it will accept a string. It will accept the active as well as an animated node. Active animated node number. Lastly, it's going to accept the index of the text. All these props that I passed here, are you sure I'm going to make use of them? You can still make use of the props that we use for this one. But let's just go ahead first. maybe we can refactor everything later. So I'm going to bring down the test wrapper props. We have the text, we have the active, we have the index. So we don't even need the active transition over here. Why am I killing myself? Because you can do this the same way we did for the other one. Let me just return null for now because I don't want to see any error on my screen. So I can just prettily do the same thing I did, use it, which is going to be an equals. Can check the animated node value happen to be the current index. Then we can create our own active transition rather than creating it and pushing it through, which is kind of cool. Then we can use with transition as usual. Then we can pass that and generate an animation values that we can definitely use to interpolate values. So I made a mistake here. So we can add that to import. Okay, I already got rid of that. So I'm going to bring in the bounce effect. But before I create an animation value, let me import, let me use the view from animated. So we can bring in the view as well as the text from React Native. We have the text. Then right here, we have the view. Then inside the view, we have the style. We can just put down the text first. Let's make sure that our text is showing, which is the string. So it's not actually auto formatting because we have an error here. So we can save, and you can see our text are showing under our icons. Let's go ahead and give this text some styles. So we have the font weight to be, let's make it 900. Give it a font family of carbon or carbon bold. Give it a font size of 12. A text transform of, let's capitalize the text and save. Wow, it looks kind of cool, and somehow it looks similar to this text that we see here. Somehow it looks similar to that. So back in the text wrapper, for this view is going to take a position of absolute. It's going to take a position of absolute because we want to translate the values, translate it up whenever we click on that, whenever we click on the icon. So I'm just going to add a position of absolute for now, and then I'm going to create some animation values. So we already have our animation node that we want to use. I'm going to first of all create a bounce effect with spring transition from redash, which is going to accept the animation node, which is the active transition, and is going to take in spring utils from React Native gesture handler, I guess, but make default config, and then it's going to take overshoots. It should be, yeah, input comma there. Overshoot clamping to be true. Then we want to have a damping effect of new animated value 5. We want it to This overshoot clamping, something like have a little bit of bouncing effect whenever the animation is about to end. So we can now create, first of all, we can create the show text, which is going to interpolate with the active transition, and then we want it to look at for 0 to 1 value, then the text should quickly show, which is the output range of 0 to 1, I guess. Yeah. So let's go ahead and add that. So right here, we can add an opacity of show text. So when we save that, it's going to disappear except for the one that we are currently at. So you can see right now, the shop is showing there, but because they almost have the same color, you can't pretty see it. So let me just come here and create one more animation for moving it up and down. That is translate. So guys, sorry for that little noise. My housemates are kind of disturbing a little bit. So we have the input range, of 0 to 1. We want it to come from the bottom to the top. So we want it to come from 20 to 1. Then right here, I'm just going to add a translate y value. So I created it with same string and it's going to work. So you can see we have something like a little bit bounce effect. We said from 20 to let me just add 5. Let me add 10. Oh, still pretty big. Oh, not bad. So we want this to come from 50, while I want this to be 20. So let me see. Oh, it's so obvious. Let's say 16. So because of this, it's as if it's so far away. So I say 30. I think 30 should be good. So you can see we have a little bit of bounce effect, which is not really bad. So, and that's kind of looks similar to what we have here. So when we click on this, we can see we have that text. So if you don't want that much bouncing effect, you can still reduce this to like 3. Which is not bad. So right now you can see we've pretty done almost exactly what you see here. So for the weave is kind of simple. I'm just going to grab that because someone did it, which is very simple as well. I'm just going to grab that and put it, and you can get that on the GitHub repo. So thank you for watching this tutorial. Do make sure you hit the like button and also the subscribe button, and see you next time on my next video.